Okay, so good evening, Shakti. We'll start now. So, yesterday we have seen the early Tudor period towards the end, and now we can start with the Elizabethan period and the period of Shakespeare. Actually, we divide this particular period with different names. Most probably, it is the most common name is like Elizabethan period because Queen Elizabeth was that much popular. That is the reason. And of course, we used to say age of Shakespeare, of course, because he is also a prominent literary figure during that time. So just like we have done Chaucer and his contemporaries, we will do like Shakespeare and then his contemporaries. Some of them maybe like they lived and they existed before Shakespeare, some during the time of Shakespeare and some after the time of Shakespeare. So for the convenience of dividing this particular period, we can do like this. So before into Shakespeare, we can just discuss the age in which Shakespeare lived, what are the peculiarities of this particular age and all. Okay. So first of all, this is, of course, the reign of the Tudor Queen Elizabeth I. Elizabeth I ascended the throne in 1558 and her reign extended till 1603. That is till her death. It is not for any other reason the rule changed, but because of her death that it got over. Okay, reign of Tudor Queen Elizabeth extends from 1558 to 1603. And you can see like Shakespeare was born even after Queen Elizabeth ascended the throne because his lifespan extends from 1564 to 1606. Okay, 1564. So after 6 years of Elizabeth's reign, Shakespeare is actually born. So we can see like this particular age of Queen Elizabeth was a wonderful age in all sense, not only in the context of literature, but in all sense that was a wonderful age. England emerged as a leading power during that time. We know the history of England and how a minor island England was, and how Roman and other people, Dutch people and all these people conquered England for a long time, how they colonized England, and the development is actually shown. And now we know that, okay, England as well as America are two major powers when considering the geographical region across the world. And England was flourishing as a leading power during this particular age. England was emphasizing its significance during this age. Okay, like leading naval and commercial power of Europe. England was developed into or raised into naval power as well as the commercial power. Trading and everything was flourishing, and it had some naval wars with Spain and other countries, and they defeated all the other countries, and they had a very good naval force. So all these happened during this period. And the important one is the defeat of Spanish Armada in 1588. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with this. Actually, this was a naval fleet by Spain. Okay, Spain was actually attacking England through a sea. Okay, the sea power through ships. So many ships, almost 130 plus ships were sent to in England to defeat England and its power. And the prime intention of this Spanish Armada mission was to replace Catholicism, because I told you that before this period itself you can see the decline of Catholicism, and Protestants were replacing Catholicism, okay, as part of Renaissance and Reformation. So this was one of the reasons or the aims of Spaniards to restore the Catholicism, the lost glory of Catholicism. So, and so many other reasons too, defeating England in all sense. But Queen Elizabeth, with her, talent, with her brilliance, with her leading power, with her leadership quality, she could actually defeat, or she could prevent this kind of a attack from Spain. Okay, that is what Spanish Armada, and this was like we had this Indo-Pak wars, and when India wins, you can see like all over the India, we will be having a very patriotic feeling. All of us will be, though we may mourn at the loss of our soldiers, we will be having a very nationalistic pride and very patriotic pride that okay, we defeated our country. That time India is like all together, all Indians, whether it is like Bihari, Bengali, Tamilian, Malayali, Telugu, whatever it is, like they all are together and they consider it's like India, unity, one country. So just like that in England also, after this defeat of the Spain, after the defeat of Spanish Armada, the people were like so patriotic. The nationalistic spirit was high during this time, and thus reflected in literature too. Okay, that is one of the reasons. And this war, this naval war, and all those things, you can see these kinds of elements in many of the works during that time. And of course, a spirit of nationalism is a part I have already mentioned. And the Protestant church firmly established, because till then it was like a confusion. The Protestantism was trying to replace Catholicism, or Protestantism was emerging as a superpower. But with the defeat of Spanish Armada, which was trying to restore the glory of Catholicism, actually Protestantism was firmly established. You can't easily defeat Protestants. We are also high in number and we are also powerful. Likewise, it got established with much force. And these are some people who helped Queen Elizabeth for this particular purpose, like Sir Francis Drake, Sir Humphrey Gilbert, and Sir Walter Raleigh. These three are the supporters, okay, the supporters who supported Queen Elizabeth in this particular voyage, like in defeating the Spanish Armada, and they were like the advisors, and they contributed a lot in supporting Queen Elizabeth, as well as emphasizing the significance of England as a leading power in Europe as well as all over the world. And then coming to Queen Elizabeth, let's see the importance of Queen Elizabeth first. She's the last Tudor monarch, I told you. She reigned for almost 44 years. And during that time, if a woman is that much powerful, you can just imagine, okay, the willpower and the effort that she had put in. And she became the cult figure till this moment. Like, who was the most popular leader or the ruler of England? If you ask like that, most probably the first name that comes to your mind will be like Queen Elizabeth first. We have Henry 5, Henry 6, Henry 7, and all these people, Henry 8, all these people. So many powerful leaders were there. James, after Queen Elizabeth came, James first, Richard III. So many people ruled England, but still the period of Queen Elizabeth was really important one during the periods of England's rulers. And she successfully defeated all plots against her, not only Spanish Armada, but there were so many plots formed against her because she is a woman. And it is sometimes people think like it's easy to defeat a woman ruler or someone like that. So many allegations against her, and so many plots against her, so many attacks against her ruling. So many things happened, but she could successfully defeat all these. And then great military victory, that is Spanish Armada during this time, and led England to be one of the most powerful countries in the world. And Queen Elizabeth's contribution for this is really great. And she is famous for being a virgin till the end of her life. Actually, she didn't get married. She continued to be a virgin. Actually, there are definitely political reasons for that, because that was a time when this conflict between Catholicism and Protestantism was high. So if she gets married with someone, it may affect in different ways, multiple ways. So she doesn't want to make any kind of conflicts in that particular context. So she remained to be a virgin, an unmarried person, and she continued the ruling in England. And she is the epitome of beauty and greatness. She's considered to be the epitome of beauty and greatness, and she was very moderate, very diplomatic, and very tolerant kind of a queen. Otherwise, you can imagine, otherwise it is not easy for a ruler to reign for the long 44 years. That too a very powerful ruling. But her popularity waned towards the end of her rule. Towards the end of her rule, actually, what happened is like she had to face some allegations with some relationships with other people and things like that. Of course, it says like she had some personal secret relationships with some people, and there were so many rulers regarding this, and they started to her popularity started to wane because of this. And London in the Elizabethan age, that is what we are going to see next. This additional information on Elizabeth is just for the sake of your information. And then London in the age, Elizabethan age. Why London, specifically London? Because you can see like almost all these acting troops, all these, theaters, everything was based on this London. Okay, so London was very having a very important position during the time of Queen Elizabeth's rule. Not only during Queen Elizabeth's rule, but for all the time, it is like that. And London was the center of cultural and commerce beside the Thames. London situates beside Thames. You know that Thames is the popular river. And I told you that just like the naval power, London was actually famous for, or England was actually famous for the commercial trades that they were having during that time. So London was the center of culture and commerce beside the Thames. Being beside the Thames, it was easy for London to export and import things and to make this trading in a very convenient manner. Okay, so that was one of the advantages of London. Now also when we look at the capitals of our places like Chennai, or in the case of Kerala it's Trivandrum, and the case of India it's New Delhi, you can see like this will be the place which has good connections with other cities, other places, other geographical regions. And this place will be having the greatest potential to do things in a better way. That's how we decide the capital of such a place. So London was actually emerging to be the most center part of this England. And of course, growing population was growing during this time. Then dominant merchant class, I told you merchant class was improving during the time. And immigrants from other towns also came. Just like you just compare this with Chennai, you can imagine like if a place is having or providing so much of potential, then definitely people start to migrate to this kind of places. So immigrants from other towns. And a large number of poets and dramatists emerged in London. And in case of Shakespeare also, you can see like actually this was not his, London was not his native place. Okay, but later he, for a better opportunity, for a better, place to place himself, actually he moved to London. So likewise, people started to immigrate to this London from other towns, and a large number of poets and dramatists you can see. Then drama was the most popular entertainment during this time, and we used to say like the Elizabethan period is the golden period of drama in the context of British literary history. And London, in the context as a geographical region, London is a very noisy, dirty place. Of course, again, you can connect it with the capitals that now we are having. It will be very noisy place because so much of trade, so much of people, so much of shops and all those things will be there. Then dirty place. Naturally, when people or the population increases, definitely the place will be like dirty. And narrow streets. And why these are important here in our context is like you can see such images in the works of the people during this time. If you go through the literary works of this period, you can see like this kind of narrow streets are visualized, well, like portrayed in the works of these people, these writers, which you can easily visualize. The noisy places, dirty places, so many places. So a replica of London is actually being portrayed in the works of these people. Then coming to the socio-political scenario, despite Renaissance and humanism, Elizabethan society was still primitive in science and technology. We have seen how Renaissance and how the idea of humanism improved the condition, improved the thoughts, and improved the lifestyle of the people. But still, you can imagine, like, even though there is something very revolutionary thing happens, it is difficult for the people to cope up with this kind of changes, come up with this kind of changes. So, despite Renaissance, despite humanism, despite all these changes, that the revolutionary changes that they had, Elizabethan society was kind of still primitive, okay, and the scientific thoughts, they were not that ready to accept the changes very easily. And printing was still a luxury during this time. Of course, you know that Caxton established the printing press, and we have seen the first book to be printed in English, the first book to be printed in English with the date and all these we have already discussed. But still, printing was a luxury. It was not a normal thing. Okay, it was not accessible for everyone during this time. Then even local travel was arduous and limited. Okay, because there are reasons like the streets and all these people, all these places, and the exploding population. Because of all these reasons, even the local travel was arduous and limited. And scientists and witches were often mistaken as in the same trade. This can be connected with the first point that we discussed, because despite Renaissance and humanism, people were primitive in nature. So witches actually they'll be doing the superstitious belief people. They'll be doing some illogical things. But scientists were also considered to be in the category of the witches. That was the problem. So during this time, a number of women were executed for witchcraft in England during the Renaissance. Even during the Renaissance, Renaissance means okay, the emergence, the intellectual empowerment, all these things that we usually associate with Renaissance. But still, even during this period, so many women, usually during that time in Elizabethan society, the single women, especially single old women living alone, were considered to be witches. And unfortunately, if they keep some pets, just like a cat or dog with them, definitely they'll be considered to be witches. They will be arrested, they'll be trialed, and they'll be executed. Okay, this was happened during this time. And many literary works of the period bear testimony of this public interest of the subject. You can see like during this time, if you check with the details of the literary works of this time, you can see like so much of examples, so much of testimonial examples are there, where people used to say like the witches being trialed and executed, so many things that's like that. Okay. And then, just like the earlier time, the system was like this. The feudal monarch will be there. The feudal monarch exerted his or her power through a court. And below the aristocrats, and they, of course, belong to the aristocratic category. And below the aristocrats, there came the gentry and the citizen. Gentry means the Prabhu kind of a thing. Like the gentry usually denoted by the title sir. Okay, the aristocratic people are there, and just below that, this gentry people, Gentry, gentry people, they were addressed with the sir. Sir Thomas something, or Sir George something, something like that. And then you can see like the gentry actually usually donated, sorry, but they denoted by the title Sir, and they held their wealth in the form of land outside London. Okay, outside London, they'll be having lots and lots of lands, and either inherited by birth or acquired by marriage. We don't know exactly how this land came to them. Sometimes their father may be having and they got it by birth, something like that, and sometimes through marriage also they acquired this kind of land. And then below that, we have common citizens. Okay, common citizen, unlike the gentry, the citizens are generally lived in London. They are in London itself, and they derived their wealth from trade, most probably. We have seen like the merchant class was improving during this time, and trade and commerce was so much of at its peak during this time. So the common citizen mostly derived their wealth from trade, and then never attended the court. They don't have any connection with the court. Court is exclusive. Court means the palace and the court. And the court is exclusively for the aristocratic people as well as the gentry people. Below that, the common citizen doesn't have a connection with the court. And they sponsored some entertainments for them. And there are earlier you can see this common people, they were considered, they were addressed like peasants, and agriculture was their major source of income. And now during the period of Elizabeth, it has changed, like trade is the most common, and this is in the context of London that I am saying. Of course, countryside people are there, still they are having agriculture, that is of course there, but in the context of London, these people were much into trading. And the courtiers in run derived their citizen in an unfashionable and vulgar way. The people of court, they considered the citizens to be like, okay, low class people. They are not that fashionable. They are unfashionable, and they are kind of vulgar people. This kind of stereotypical notions were imposed on this group of people. Then strong ale was the common drink. That is just for, actually why this is important is like, again, you can see this ale, A-L-E, ale, strong ale. This is an alcoholic drink. And you can see this ale, this word in many of the works during this time, because that was the common drink during this time in London. And the same got placed in the literary works also. Now coming to the family, okay, the family structure of London as like, yeah, I think you can see now. Yes, family is like a family included not only the husband, yesterday I told you, not only the husband, wife and children, but even the servants, for they were actively involved in the household affairs. Okay, in the family matters, the servants are also involved. They also give comments, they also give suggestions, they also make active participations in the conversation between the family members. So this happens. Okay, and you can see in the context of the marriage, the Renaissance nobility, they married early. They married early, while the common folk married in their mid-20s. Okay, if it is like nobility, that is aristocratic category, they married very early. And for the common people, common citizen, they married during their mid-20s, like 23, 24, 25, 26. That is what called the mid-20s. This is how the marriage age goes. And the average life expectancy, okay, average life expectancy was just 40, and many women died in childbirth. That is actually, that is the lack of the development in the medical scenario. Okay, during the childbirth, many people, many women died. Actually, the dress style during that time was also considered to be one of the reasons for that, because the dressing style of women during that time was like very tight, and they had kind of dress codes and all, and they were most into, you might have seen the dressings of the queens. YouTube videos are available, how the Victorian, Elizabethan queens and the palace women, they got dressed up. this kind of, oh, so much of dress one after the other, so much of dresses were into them, and it was really difficult for them even to carry that. So this kind of dressing is also one of the reasons for the death of this women during the childbirth. Some people say like that. There are so many reasons. And due to the high rate of child mortality, and not only mothers, but the children also, the infants also, they too die at the early age. During the, birth itself, some children, they got dead. And due to this rate of high child mortality, adults were probably more attached to their siblings rather than to their children. Because we don't know whether the children, okay, even if the child, the infant survived the birth time difficulties, then also there may be so many reasons for, infant mortality, so child mortality. So they may die at any age. So for me, rather than to my children, I have connections with my siblings, because we don't know when the child will die or survive, we don't know. So this was something like the siblings, okay, from the childhood, the siblings are there with the people. So during that time, you can see like people had a more strong connection with the siblings rather than the children. This is just a general statement, not for everyone. It's not applicable for everyone, but this is what actually happened, and this is the reason why siblings are more important than the children, is because this is the reason, because child mortality was so high during that time. And the husband was held as the superior to wife. There is no difference. Even during that time, the patriarchal conventions were existing. The husband was held superior to the wife, physically, intellectually, morally, spiritually, in all the way. Economically, the husband considered to be the superior one to the wife. Then children were regarded as a miniature adult with, unquestionable obedience. They expected to be like very obedient during that period. Like kids were considered like, oh, this is kiddish, this is childish. People won't say like that. The children are also supposed to act like adults during that time, and they are supposed to be very obedient to their parents and the elders. So it goes like that. Okay. Then male anxiety about female infidelity was prevalent during this time, and this kind of a concept is very popular and common in many of the works during that time. The husbands are like, even this Othello, the work by Shakespeare. This is the major theme, right? This is the major theme of Othello. Like he is suspicious over his wife, Desdemona, and that ended up in the murder of Desdemona and the complete destroyal of Othello himself. So this male anxiety about female infidelity was very common during that time. Okay, the greatest insult for a man was to sprout horns and turn into a cuckold. Actually, the thing is like, there was a notion like, if I'm a man and if my wife is indulged into any kind of illegal affairs, the husband will have two horns. Okay, that was the notion that the horns will be sprout on the head of the husband, so that everyone will understand that, okay, this person's wife is having some illegal affair, or she cheated on him, something like that. So that was considered to be the greatest insult for the husband. It affects the masculinity of the person. So that was the thing. But at the same time, the female and this kind of a person who got a horn out of the infidelity of the wife is called cuckold. Okay, cuckold. Cuckold. And there is a feminine version for this, that is queen. But this queen was rarely used. Queen was not at all, in vogue during that time, because man can do anything. That is not that very, problematic thing during that time. Even if it is done, the women should forgive. it happens because he's a man, things like that. So men were very much concerned or anxious about the infidelity of the wife, but women were okay. And then, however, in England, more than in the rest of the Europe, there was more insistence on mutual affection and companionship in marriage. This is very important because in Europe, mostly marriage was considered to be a process to have children for reproduction, something like that, a companionship or a compatibility between the husband and wife. That was not that expected in Europe. And England was comparatively better in this context. And later you can see like John Milton in the 17th century and all. John Milton came with divorce tracts. He has written so many tracts, so many journalistic things explaining the necessity of having divorce, explaining the necessity of the legalization of divorce, if the husband and what kind of a relation the husband and wife should maintain. They should not be just two people having power on the other or something like that. They should be friends. There should be a companionship, something like that. And if the husband and wife cannot bring forth this kind of a relationship, then they should get they should be free to have divorce, something like that. Unfortunately and ironically, the same Milton had three marriages. Okay, he couldn't continue with the first and second wife, and finally he was, yeah, till his death. I don't know whether his third wife was with him till his death. Anyway, he had very unsuccessful marriages in his life, and that is of course an irony. The someone who spoke about, and this is one of the reasons for this licensing act came in England. Actually, it's because of Milton's tracts that the licensing act came in England. Like you cannot publish whatever comes to your mind. There is like a censorship should be there. The things that the people should write should be censored, and then only after getting the approval of the authority only it can be published. This kinds of issues came, licensing act, and in that way only Milton wrote Aeropagitica, which gives us the information on the freedom of press. Even that is the base for the freedom of press here, even in India. So that was actually a very revolutionary kind of an act. So we will go to Milton later. And now in England, comparatively, the relationship between the husband and wife was better comparing to the other parts of Europe. Okay. Now let's see the Elizabethan theatre and its beginnings. Yesterday, I have just made some, comments on the beginning of the theatre, and you can see in the early 16th century, they were traveling actors, not licensed ones. Okay, they were just traveling actors. They considered to be vagabonds or thieves. They didn't get any kind of acknowledgements, and gypsies kind of people. When we have this group of people in our area, we used to say, oh, you should be very careful about that particular group. They are from other part of the state or the district or something like that. We are not familiar with this kind of people, and their looks are not that good, things like that. So later, licenses were given to nobles for maintaining actors. Actually, these acting groups, they were not free to have licenses, but a sponsor can be there. A noble person, an aristocratic person can sponsor this kind of people, and so they can work. They can put it into an acting troupe. Okay. So such licenses being given to the aristocrats to sponsor this kind of actors, and this acting troops came into being. When we were discussing this mystery miracle place, I told you like it started in the church and then to the churchyard and then to the nobles men's houses and then to the public places. That's how it goes. So just like that here also, the people, after gaining so much of popularity for drama, the aristocratic people started to sponsor this kind of acting people, actors. And then when they got this license, from the title traveling actors, they formed into acting troops. Okay, they had troops and they played in the courtyards of the taverns called inn yards. Inn yards is the place that is in front of the hotels. Now we have this hotels, and in front of the hotels sometimes the star hotels may conduct some entertaining activities, right? So just like that, they were also in front of the inns, in front of the taverns. The yards will be there, inn yards will be there, and in such place they'll just have temporary settings and they acted the dramas. Okay, so it goes. And then after that, permanent theaters, and the first theater in England is James Barbage's The Theatre. The name of the theater itself is The Theatre. Okay, so please keep this information in your mind. This is very important. The first person who made a permanent theater is James Burbage, and the theater's name is The Theatre. Okay, The Theatre. And then so many other theaters emerged after this. Okay, and a huge list is there. And let's see the Elizabethan theater and its a structure. Okay, actually it's like round. The theaters are like the permanent theaters that I'm speaking on. The permanent theaters are round in shape with wooden roofless building. You can just imagine, if you Google, you will see some pictures also of this kind of theaters. Okay, if you're interested, you can just Google and see the pictures. Round wooden roofless buildings, like it will be full made of full wood, and then there won't be any roof. It will be like open theater and 3 galleries of seats. You can see 3 galleries. Now also we have this balcony, and then the first one and the last row, all these things, right? So just like that, 3 galleries. But these 3 galleries are meant for the aristocrats, the gentry, and the normal citizen. Okay, and there is another thing, the pit. Pit means there is no seat. People can stand there, and then people can watch. So it's just like that. Okay, where the groundlings stood, cost a penny. It was like very cheap. If you give a penny, then you can stand there and then you can watch, but you can't enjoy the luxuries of being in a theater. Just like that. And the main stage, if it gets ended, we can rejoin. The main stage is 40 feet wide and 27 feet projection into the pit. Okay. So there's 3 galleries of seats, and then the pit is there where you won't be having any seat, but you can stand and enjoy with a penny. And main stage is like 40 feet wide and 27 feet projection into the pit. That is the structural specifications of the stage. Then recessed inner stage, curtains and balcony, because we know that in a drama, we need so much of background changes, some balcony scenes will be there. So all those things. So recessed means konjam ipdi ulla thalli irukkira mari. Okay, that kind of places will also be there as part of the main stage. Then a music room will be there, and the provisions for heaven and hell. Because we can see like heaven type of inclusions and hell type of inclusions in the drama. So in that case, if Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus and all such plays, you can see heaven. The protagonist is making visits to heaven, hell, so many places like that. So for the sake of such plays, we have this provisions for heaven and hell. So this is what all the structure of an Elizabethan theatre. Now, the main things that you should keep in your mind is like they are round and wooden and roofless. And three galleries of seat and also the pit. Pit means a place where you don't have a seat. It's meant for the most common people or the layman. And the main stage is like almost 40 feet wide and 27 feet projection to the pit. Then a recessed inner stage, this curtains, balcony, music room, provisions for hell and heaven, all these will be there. Uh, then you can see, yeah. Okay. Drama in the Elizabethan age was so popular. And after the defeating of the Spanish Armada, England became intensely patriotic. I told you, intensely patriotic, and the spirit reflected in the plays also. This patriotism and this kind of wars, the success of England in the wars, all these influenced a lot of the literary works of that period. And then Queen Elizabeth was directly involved with the stage and even decided which plays were to be acted. Okay, she was the one who maybe like sometimes what to say, deciding, okay, this kind of a play can be enacted today, or this kind of a play is to be written, and this kind of a character can be given much importance or something like that. And then audience included many uneducated people who wanted to escape from the pressures of the daily life. Actually, you can't expect a particular kind of audience during this time. Actually, aristocratic people came, gentry people came, normal people came, everyone came. And also you can see like this also reflected in the works of the people, because in Shakespearean plays and all, you can see the combinations of all these kinds of people in a single scene. The king will be saying something, and of course there will be the king may be surrounded with the people from aristocracy and the people from gentry. Some soldiers or some people will be there, and also you can see servants are also included in the same scene, so that everyone can connect with the play. Okay, just like me, one character is also there, and if it is full of aristocratic affairs, the local people or the normal people may be wondering what kind of a play is this, or what kind of a story is this, because they are not familiar with the court and the court affairs and the aristocratic sophisticated lifestyle of the people. But when it is included with the characters like cook, maid, normal soldiers and normal people, students, and someone like that, and women, men, all these people are included. So it will be easier for everyone to get an access and get kind of a connection with the play. And you can see the playwrights were actually practical men during this time, and they went on making a living. It was not actually for the aesthetic pleasure or something like that. They didn't write it for the aesthetic pleasure or this awards or something like that. The people were very practical. If they write something, they will get the earning for that. If one play is written, the person will get the remuneration for that particular play. And once it is sold, just like Roland Barthes says, the author is dead. Then the people who bought it can have, they are capable of making necessary changes in the play. The writer cannot question it. That kind of a thing is also there. So plays were written to be acted, not to read. And that is another reason in the works of Shakespeare. Again, I'm connecting it with the works of Shakespeare for two reasons. One, we are discussing Shakespeare soon after this. And the next thing is like you may be familiar with the Shakespearean works rather than the works of other major writers like Thomas Kidd or Christopher Marlowe or Ben Jonson of that time. You may be more familiar with Shakespearean works. That's why. And You can see it is meant for acting, not for reading. Now we are reading Shakespearean plays, but at that time I told you printing was a luxury during that time, and not that so many manuscripts were printed. So it is meant for acting. So if you go through the lines of the plays of Shakespeare, you can see they are very long. In the context of reading, we may sometimes feel like, why this much of lines, unnecessary inclusions? We may sometimes feel like that. And for acting as well as reading, we need two types of approaches. Actually, Shakespearean plays and all the works, major works of this period, are meant for acting, not for reading. So that kind of a difference definitely be there. And once a playwright sold this particular play to the people who are concerned, this person has no right on it. And there was increasing commercialization of the stage during this time. The artists were highly pressurized to excel because drama flourished into the major genre of this particular period. People started to enjoy really well, so competition also started. Now we know that the films are having this kind of a competition. If two three films are being released together, the best play or the most entertaining film will be like collecting more amount than the other ones. So the actors included in that particular drama are highly pressurized because they have to excel. Then only they'll be like invited for other performances. Then only the people will be liking the drama. So many pressure will be there on the people who are connected to this. And by the Jacobean period, only members of the royal family were allowed to patronize artists. Till then, most of the people, if they are capable of patronizing, sponsoring, they could have done it. But by the Jacobean age, only members of the royal families can sponsor. So this kind of changes came. And we can see the stage influences on Shakespeare. Like I told you yesterday, if Shakespeare or any of the writers, they have written something, there is a reason for that. It's not just because of their creative thinking or something that they are writing it, but there are some reasons for that. Let's see. Huge open free stages which necessitated quick changes and rapid action, long speeches and passionate soliloquies, closeness of different classes in a scene. Okay, actually, in Shakespearean works, these kinds of elements are visible, but just because the period was necessitating this kind of things, quick changes and rapid action. They have to move and they have to change the actions very quickly because there is no curtain, there is no front curtain or something like that. So after one scene, people are just watching, so they have to change this accordingly. So when the writers writing something, they'll be like, okay, which scene can be changed with another instantly. They'll be thinking like that, and then they'll be writing. So this kind of a difference will be there. Actually, their creativity got limited with this kind of limitations. Then long speeches and passionate soliloquies. Okay, this is also as part of the stage because it is not that easy to change one by one. If in the case of Hamlet, if you see Hamlet, you can see long soliloquies and all, because this is a stage and the person is doing something, and in between the other technicians of this drama, they need more time to do something like other stage setting and the next scene setting. All these things they have to do, right? So we should give some time for them to arrange all these things. That's very important. So for that, they need time. So the speeches are very long. The soliloquies are passionate, very passionate. So that if it is like too long speeches, people also will get fed up. What kind of a speech is this? Why this person is not ending? So we'll be like, the writers will make it very passionate. So that the people will also be like, yeah, very nice words and all. That's why we are getting so much of quotes from Shakespeare and all. Then closeness of different classes in a scene, I have already described it. Like the king will be there, the queen will be there, the Ministers will be there, the soldiers will be there, and in the same context, in the same scene, the fools will be there, the servants will be there, maids will be there, assistants will be there. Okay, so many people. The closeness of different classes in a scene was very much mandatory because the audience was also like of different category. Aristocratic people, this what to say, gentry people, common people, everyone was there. So everyone wanted to connect the actors with their own context. So that is very important. And see, no women actors, use of disguises. That is one of the reasons. If you check with the dramas of Shakespeare, you can see so many cross dressings. That is like women are dressing in the guise of men. Okay, women are in the guise of men. That is because during that time women were not actors. Okay, there were no women actors during this time. Everyone will be men people, male people, and they have to cross dress, they have to come in the guise of a woman, and they have to act. So to avoid this kind of a cross dressing, purposefully they included so many cross dressing. Just for example, the play Merchant of Venice. I don't know whether you're familiar with Merchant of Venice. There is a character called Portia, and Portia, at one point, for the sake of to help her husband, she is going as an advocate. Okay, she is in the guise of an advocate. So that is a man, not a woman, not a female advocate, but a male advocate. So she dresses herself as a male one. So the thing is like actually originally when this particular drama is enacted on the stage, the role of Portia is done by a male actor. And when it comes to this particular part of the advocate, he doesn't have to do this makeup of a woman. He can be a man himself and he can act because Portia is now in the guise of a man. And just like that, in As You Like It, again you can see As You Like It, you can see the both the women, both the leading female characters are converted themselves into male depending on the situation. So Shakespeare very craftfully created this kind of situation so that no one will be suspicious of this kind of a stage limitation. Then again, in 12th Night, Viola and all other characters, they are also cross-dressing. They are also pretending to be men. So many works, you can see this kind of cross-dressings. That is in the disguises. So it is because there is no women actor. There is no woman actor, and they are forced to cross dress. The men are forced to cross dress, and because of the time limitations, because of the lack of time for this makeup and all, if this kind of scenes are there, then it will be easier for the actors to act. They don't have to put on the makeup of a woman, they can come like that. That is the reason. And then only daytime light was there, hence speeches about time, season and weather, all these are mandatory. Because again, you can see like a drama will be like sometimes it happens, the scenes happen at night, sometimes it happen at daytime, but most probably when they are enacting it, there was so much of shortage and limitations in the context of lighting. So they were forced to do it in the daytime, in the daylight. So only daylight is available to show that okay, this is night, or to show that this is winter, or to show that this is summer or a rainy season. They don't have much provisions. Now we have so much of provisions. Now we have pour down dewdrops, pour down rain. We can show very sunny stage. We can show night scenes. We can show day scenes. Whatever it is now, it is available both in films as well as theater. But during that time, only daylight was available. So you can see so many speeches explaining the time, season, weather, and all those things. In Macbeth, you can see there are 40 such speeches because Macbeth mostly happens at night. So in the beginning itself, they wanted to show like, okay, it's a very dark night. The characters have to say like that. Then only the people will understand that, oh, this is night. Otherwise, they will think like it is daytime. And the passing of the time also cannot be shown without this kind of speeches. And if it is a winter season, then they can say like, oh, it's heavy winter. I can't handle the, cool weather or something like that. Or if it is a springtime, wow, what a wonder season is this. All the flowers are blooming and it's really nice. This fragrance is really beautiful. It is amazing. Something like that. They have to create this kind of speeches. Indirectly they are giving clues to the weather season and time. Okay, so these are the stage influences on Shakespeare. Because of the stage limitations or stage peculiarities, Shakespeare had to, or even the other writers also had to make necessary changes in their works. Then publication of Shakespeare's plays. Actually, the texts the texts of 16 of his plays were printed individually in quarto edition in Shakespeare's lifetime itself, with of course so much of errors. The errors are inevitable because it happened during his lifetime itself. 16 of his plays, okay, individually, like a single plays. 16 plays got published, and some of these were like corrupted or pirated editions. So we have good and bad quartos. We don't know exactly like the quality of this quarto. But still, 16 of his plays have been published like that. And for 18 of his plays, we have only texts published after his death, not during his lifetime. Okay. And 16 of his plays were published in quarto. What is a quarto? Quarto meaning fourth part. Fourth part means it's the size of the paper. It's the size of the paper obtained when a sheet of paper is folded twice to make 4 sheets or 8 pages. That is what called a quarto. That means if you take a white paper, and if you fold it into 2, okay, if you fold it into 2, then you can see 1 side, 2 side, 3 side, and 4 side. Okay, 4 side. It's a paper like this, and if you fold it into 2, then 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 sides will be there. Again, if you fold it once more, you will have 8 sides, right? 8 sheets will be there. So that is what called a quarto. Quarto. So in quarto editions, just like this, so that is the size of this book. In quarto editions, we have 16 of his plays individually published during his lifetime, and 18 of his plays we have text published only after his death. Okay. Then the first folio, let's speak about the first folio that is written in 1623. Okay, that is the first collection of Shakespeare's works. This is titled Mr. William Shakespeare's Comedies, Histories, and Tragedies. That is the title of this first folio, the first printed edition. The first of 16 of his, the titled Mr. William Shakespeare's Comedies, Histories, and Tragedies. And this is compiled by John Hemingers and Henry Condell. These are the two people who were behind this particular compilation. And it is dedicated to the incomparable pair of brethren, William Herbert, 3rd Earl of Pembroke, and his brother Philip Herbert, Earl of Montgomery. Okay, this was the title. Actually, this was the dedication. This particular work of 16 plays, it was dedicated to, this anthology was dedicated to, once again, yes, it is a compiled work. The first folio is a compiled work. The 16 works, they got individually published in the form of quartos. And then this is the first folio, that is the first compilation. All these 16 plays, they got compiled, okay, by these two people like John Hemingers and Henry Condell. These two people combined it. into one. That is what called this folio. And then in this you can see like it is dedicated to the third Earl of Pembroke and Philip Herbert, Earl of Montgomery. And this was the first collected edition of his plays. Okay, first collected edition of his plays, and that was published in 1623. Because when it was individually published in the form of quartos, I told you there were so many pirated, corrupted editions. Good quartos as well as bad quartos were there. So we don't know exactly whether it is the original form written by Shakespeare or not. Confusions were there. But in the first folio, this is the first collected edition of the plays. So it is like a compiled version, and you can see all the 16 plays here in this particular folio. Okay, and in the case of the works, you can see only 36 included in the first folio. Pericles was the work which was not included. You know that in total Shakespeare account we have 37 plays, but only 36 included in the first folio. And then later this what to say, Pericles was not actually included. And then this is after his death, right? This 18 plays. This is actually, sorry, I was just saying like it is the 16 plays included in this folio. No, it is not like that. The 36 plays also got included in the first folio. It was published in 1623. Okay, 1623. Shakespeare died in the year 1616. Okay, 1616 like Shakespeare died, and in 1623 we have this first folio in which all his plays are included, all these 16 plays which was published in the form of quartos during this lifetime, as well as the 18 plays which were not published. All these got compiled, and all the 36 plays included in the first folio. Pericles was not included. Pericles was included later. Okay, this is the first folio or the first publication of Shakespearean plays. Now we have lots and lots of collections, compilations of Shakespeare. We know that. So now let's see. So that is all about Shakespeare's works and things in a general term. We will discuss Shakespeare's life from the beginning. We'll discuss. So before that, I thought of giving you a random idea of the age and the tragedy, the nature of the tragedy, nature of the drama, and how this worked and all those things. So now comes to Elizabethan tragedy. Of course, drama was the most what to say, popular genre during this time. And tragedy was, when we consider the different types of drama, tragedy was the most popular one. Of course, comedies, romances, all these were there, but still tragedy was kind of having much popularity. Okay, and this is not Shakespearean tragedy, but we are discussing the features of Elizabethan tragedy. Elizabethan tragedy did not follow the classical rules strictly. You know the classical rules, the three unity: unity of time, unity of place, and unity of action. You know that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Aristotle.
Okay. Yes, Aristotle's concept. Yeah, that is known as the Greek rules, or the classical rules, or the three rules, or the Aristotelian rules of tragedy. But we can see, like in the Elizabethan tragedy, they did not actually follow the classical rules very strictly. And if you go through the works of Shakespeare, you can easily understand that in Hamlet, at one time it is here in Denmark, and Hamlet is going to England. The voyage part is there. Then Laertes is into Paris. So many places are there. And of course, this is not happening within the 24 hours of time. Definitely, it takes so much of days of time. And also the unity of action is also not there. Unity of action means only a single plot should be there. But you can see n number of plots are incorporated into the works of Shakespeare's tragedies. More probably in case of King Lear, the King Lear's plot goes in one way, and just like that, you can see the Gloucester plot is also on the other way. The two fathers, how they manage the kids, and how they got deceived by the trustworthy ones and all those things. So multiple plots are also there. So they did not follow, not only Shakespearean plays, but generally the works of this time did not follow the classical rules strictly. But there are exceptions. Ben Jonson was a person who was a strict advisor of these classical unities and all these things. He was actually criticizing other writers during that time who didn't follow this classical rules and also people like Ben Jonson was also there during this time, but still generally Elizabethan tragedy didn't follow the classical rules. Yeah, see, Ben Jonson is included here. He's just an exception and has been called romantic tragedy. Why it is romantic tragedy? Because elements of romanticism was there. This multiple plots, multiple plots itself is a kind of a feature of this romanticism. Okay, that's why we can say, like, when Wordsworth and Coleridge came up with this romantic revival, that is not the romantic period or romantic era. That is just romantic revival. They are just reviving the romantic elements that we already had in British literature. In Shakespearean plays, mostly you can see this kind of romantic elements, and multiple plots are one of the examples. Then in the medieval period also we have so much of such elements. So this is just a romantic revival during the 18th century. And then disregarded the unities, use of elaborate subplots. Unity of action was not there. Mixed tragedy and comedy to form tragic comedy. That was something Shakespeare popular for. Tragedy and comedy are mixed together, and you can't say it's a tragedy. You can't say it's a comedy. That is a combination of both. That is tragic comedy. Such a development was there. We will discuss the tragic comedies of this time definitely. Then gave much importance to action, spectacle, and sensation. Okay, he gave much importance because how it can entertain the people rather than giving some morals or something like that, rather than instructing them, he gave or the people of Elizabethan age gave importance to action, so much of actions. If they follow the unity of action, there may be so much of restrictions. So they didn't follow that. And then acted violence on stage. This is something, I hope you remember Seneca, the Roman dramatist, the classical dramatist who introduced this kind of violent and bloody kind of things in drama. Actually, this revenge tragedy is a part of Elizabethan tragedy, and Hamlet can be considered to be in the category of a revenge tragedy. And in such cases, they acted violence on stage. Some people they didn't, but some people they acted violence on stage. And which is the first tragedy in English? That is Gorboduc. Okay, Gorboduc or Ferrex and Porrex. Ferrex and Porrex is the subtitle or the second name for this particular play, Gorboduc. And Gorboduc is this is one of the important informations. Hope you may be familiar with this already. Gorboduc is the first English tragedy. The first play to be written in blank verse also. Okay, the first play to be written in blank verse, the first tragedy in English, and the theme is like a political rivalry. That is the theme. And Thomas Norton wrote the first three acts of Gorboduc, and Thomas Sackville wrote the last two. Do you remember Thomas Norton? We have just mentioned this name before. Actually, one of the Chaucerians. And that time, I told you, don't confuse it with the author of Gorboduc, because this Norton and that Norton are different. That Norton, again, the same name, Thomas Norton, he was a Chaucerian. He was an imitator of Chaucer. He was a disciple of Chaucer, and he imitated the style of Chaucer and wrote some poems. He was a Chaucerian. And this person who wrote the first three acts of Gorboduc is also named with the same one, that is Thomas Norton, but these two are different people. Okay, so Thomas Norton and Thomas Sackville, this names are to be remembered. These are the two people who are having the credit of writing the first tragedy in English, that is Gorboduc. Okay, Gorboduc. Then revenge tragedy. I just mentioned what revenge tragedy is. Revenge tragedy was popular in Elizabethan and Jacobean times. Okay, influence of the Roman playwright and Stoic philosopher Seneca, especially his Thyestes. This is a work of Seneca. Actually, revenge tragedy means what? Let us see the features of a Senecan revenge tragedy. Okay, secret murderer, usually of a ruler. A ruler will be like, if you know the story of Hamlet, easily you can connect how a revenge tragedy. So whenever you are studying the features of a particular genre, try to connect it with a familiar work that comes with the same category. Then it will be easier for you to remember the features. So are you familiar with Hamlet story?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay, then you can easily connect. See, a secret murderer, usually of a ruler. We know that in the case of Hamlet, it is Claudius. Claudius is the uncle of Hamlet who is killing Hamlet's father, and he is the ruler now. Okay, so a secret, but he is a secret murderer. No one knows that it is Claudius who killed King Hamlet. Then a ghostly visitation of the victim to a younger kinsman, generally a son. Okay, this is actually the features of a Senecan revenge tragedy. Okay, and Shakespeare has wonderfully, brilliantly incorporated all these features in this particular plot. See, here the ghost of King Hamlet makes a visit to his son, Prince Hamlet, and he's giving this kind of informations. Okay, and you have to take revenge. He is giving this kind of an information. So a ghostly visitation of the victim to a younger kinsman. Generally, the kinsman will be the son. And a period of disguise, intrigue, or plotting. And in the case of Hamlet, we can see that was actually the flaw. It's a typical Shakespearean tragedy, so that elements are also there. So Hamlet was procrastinating because he wanted evidences first. So he was searching for the evidences in the beginning. And even after he got some evidences, he was procrastinating his act of revenge for some other reasons. So that was the tragic flaw. As a tragic hero, he had all these tragic flaws. That is another part. But anyway, a period of disguise, like he's fainting madness, then intrigue, plotting, what to say. So in the case of Hamlet, the mousetrap, the drama is being enacted, and with the advent of the drama, he is analyzing the reactions of Claudius, and he is confirming that okay, he is the murderer, things like that. Then a descent into either real or feigned madness by the avenger. Okay, that is also one of the features. And here, of course, Hamlet is the avenger, and he is feigning madness, of course. And then an eruption. Sometimes we may wonder whether he's really mad or this is a like is he just like acting as if he is mad. So that much of a wonderful characterization that Shakespeare has given. And an eruption of general violence at the end. At the end, you can see it's full of violence, duels, fighting. Laertes and Hamlet are fighting with each other, and in between, so many other murders, and in between, Polonius is getting murdered. So many things. And a catastrophe that generally destroys the characters, including the Avenger. The Avenger finally dies. It's not a heroic activity or the hero at the end, okay, I have done my revenge, or I have completed my vengeance. It's not like that, that the same person is also getting murdered. Okay, so these are, now you can easily connect it. When it gets connected to Hamlet, you can easily remember all these features. So all these are the features of a Senecan revenge tragedy. And this kind of tragedies were so popular during the Elizabethan period. Thomas Kyd's Spanish tragedy. Thomas Kidd is included among the university wits, the seven university wits, and his Spanish tragedy is also a perfect example for the Senecan revenge tragedy, in which also you can see all these elements. Okay, so these are the major features of a Senecan revenge tragedy. When we are speaking about the tragedy of Elizabethan period, Elizabethan tragedy, we have to definitely mention the revenge tragedy category also. Of course, there are other tragedies which is not included in the context of revenge tragedy, that is King Lear, Macbeth, and which is the other one, Othello. Okay, all these, when we consider with the greatest tragedies of Shakespeare, only Hamlet comes under this revenge tragedy category. All the others are not into this revenge tragedy. They are just Elizabethan tragedy or Shakespearean tragedy category. And then coming to Elizabethan comedy. I don't know whether we can finish. Yeah. Okay. Elizabethan comedy is the first comedy was Ralph Doyster Royster. Sorry, Ralph Royster Doyster. Just like Gorboduc, this is also an important work which you should keep in your memory, which was published in 1553, and the author is Nicholas Udall. Okay, and the second comedy is considered to be Gammer Curtain's Needle, written by either by William Stevenson or John Still. We don't know exactly who is the author of Gammer Curtain's Needle. Then Plautus Menachemi. Okay, Plautus Menachemi is a source for this particular work. Then Plautus, hope you remember, Plautus and Terence are the Roman comedians. During that time, we had the Roman comedians, and their influence was there on Elizabethan comedy. Even Shakespeare had the influence of Plautus and Terence. So these are the two works, first two comedies in English, that is Ralph Royster Doyster and Gamma Curtain's Needle. Please do remember the authors also. Okay. Commedia dell'arte. This is also one of the forms which was popular during that time. It's a body street theater of the 15th century Italy. Okay, commedia. That's why the name is like this, commedia dell'arte. And it's a body. It is not that decent. Okay, it's a body street theater, and it is characterized by improvised dialogue and a cast of colorful stock characters. Okay, it's just for the purpose of entertainment, and mostly the people of like this decent category will not be liking it, and rapidly gained popularity throughout Europe. Now also we know that this masala kind of things, they are getting wide popularity. So the traces of form and visible in much Renaissance drama. You can see this kind of, because the Italian effect and influence. So these were the major works during that time: tragedy, comedy, and commedia dell'arte. This category of works were also there. And uh, from these categories, there were so many other categories also. It developed the romances, the tragicomedy, the dark comedy, all these changed after this. Okay, so that's how it goes. So basic ideas are tragedy, comedy, and this commedia dell'arte form was also there. This is a very body kind of street theater. And